Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we'll learn about important concept in the JavaScript, which is object, which is another important data types of JavaScript. So we have learned about the numbers, string, and integer even, and now it's time to talk about the object. So object is anything that you see in the real life. So it can be the animal, it can be thing. So we have take the small example over here, which is the bike. So in real life, a bike is an object. So what you can see in the bike and what this bike does is all about the properties and method of that object. So we have taken the small example of the bike. You can also see the car, you can also take any animal which have their own properties and the methods. So properties is the attribute of that object. So in this case, bike will have the name, it can have the model, it can have the weight and the color. So you can see it can be different from each of the properties of the object. We can take another bike which have the different name, it can have the different color, it can have the different weight. But if you see the methods, which is the behavior of the object, that means the two motorbike can start and they can also drive, they can also brake and they stop. That means they will do same method, or they are responsible for invoking the different method at the different time, but they have the different property. Two different object will have the different name, they will have the different model, different weight and the color, but in the case of the method or the behavior, they can start, drive, brake, stop at the different time. That means any object will have the properties and methods. They will have the different properties, but they will be certainly doing the same methods or the behavior at the different time. So you can see over here, all bikes have the same properties, but the properties value differ from bike to bike. That means they will have the name, model, weight, color, but their values will be different from bike to bike. And all bike have the same method. That means they will do start, drive, brake, stop, but they will perform that method at the different time. One bike can perform the drive, another can perform a stop, but they will just perform this method, that is all the same methods from bike to bike, and the properties value will be different for different object. You can also take the example of the animals, and you can be taking the example of, let me say, the parrots. So parrot will have the name. So one parrot can have the different name and another have the different, and it can have a different color, it can have different weight, and it will do the same method. So they can just sleep, they can just talk. So this method will be the same for the different objects, but the properties value will be different from objects to objects. So let's take small example over here. So I have just opened my Sublime Text. So if you see, we have a simple HTML layout over here, which is just a header over here, which is basically a heading title, which is just over here, paragraph having the demo. We'll just make a script which is JavaScript, and we'll just create the object over here and display some data from that object. So first of all, when I just run this the document, you will see we'll have only the JavaScript object, which is the header over here. So let's create the script now. So first of all, I want to create the object. So object will be created by the same var keyword like we just used to create the variable, which can be number, which can be strings. So we'll just create the object with the same var keyword, and I'll just say car, or you can also say bike, because we are just taking the example of the bike over here. So we'll just say bike. So I'll just create object with these curly braces. So this is the way to create the empty object. So if I just print this now, then you will see empty object will be created. But I want to give some properties to this bike. So I'll just say type, because we have talked about the type or the model. So I'll just say this type will be Suzuki, and I'll just say that the next attribute will be the model. So model would be, let me say, 300cc bike, and the next one would be the color. So color is another attribute, and I want to give the color as black. So this is our object. In this case we have a bike object which will be created with the same var keyword, and this curly braces, inside this we give this attribute, and the value to this attribute will be assigned by this colon. You can't use something like equal to assign here. You have to make use of the colon to assign the values to the attribute. So these are the attribute. Now let's make use of some way to just display the data from this bike. So let me just say, first of all, document dot get element, because this is the way to get the element, because we have already studied about the DOM, which is basically the way to manipulate the element of the HTML. So we want to do something like, we want to change this paragraph of demo to the element of the bike. So let me just say over here that is, this is paragraph first. So I want to change this content of this is paragraph to the var, which is basically the object, the data of the object. So first of all I want to get that element which is demo, because we want to just grab this paragraph, and now I want to change this element, which is the way to do with this inner HTML. So I want to change to something, let me give the string first, and I'll just say the car or the bike type is, and I want to just concatenate. That means I want to add with this plus sign and give the car or bike. Sorry, here is the bike. So I want to use this bike, and if you want to just make use of any of the attribute of this bike, you have to first give the period, and after that you have to make use of this type, which is the attribute of that object. So let me just quickly go over here, and let me first run this console and show you what I'll just do over here. So let me quickly create the small variable object. Let me say person is my object, and I want to create this person name, and I want to give this as my name, and I want to just give role, and it would be 23, age another, which is the parameter, and I want to give 34. Okay, now I have created the person variable, which is the object. And now if you want to just assess this role of this person, you have to do something like person, give the period, and you can just make use of, let me say, role. Then you could see 23 over here. You will just assess the value of this object by giving the period and the type, or basically the attribute of that object. If you want to do the another way, you can also do something like this. You can pass here role, and if you do this, you'll just get the same answer over here, which is the 23. It is the another way to assess the object, which is the attribute or the properties. So you can do something like person, and you can say something like age, which is age over here, and you will get 34 here. So this is the way to assess the object attribute. So we'll just do that over here, which is in our Sublime Text. So what we did was, we just get this object, which is the bike object, and I want to get the value of this attribute as a type. So I'm just doing dot and the type over here. So that means it will just return something that is the bike type is, and the Suzuki over here, instead of this is paragraph. So let's save this first to go to our Mozilla over here. Let me refresh this. Then you have, this is the paragraph. So something is happening over here. So I'll see that this L is small over here. So let me save this, go back, and you'll see the bike type is Suzuki. So we have created our own object, which is bike object. We assigned the attribute to this bike, and we just change here with the help of this DOM manipulation, and we make use of this paragraph as the text, which is the string over here, saying the bike type is, and we just assess the object attribute over here with this dot operator. You can also say something like model, and you will change this bike model to. So I'll just say refresh again, and the model is 300cc. So bike is 300cc. If you want to just make something like bike color is, let me say color is, and I'll just concatenate this with first bike dot, and it should be color, and after that I want to give again. Okay, something is happening over here because I have to give here colon first, and it is good to go. So let me just remove the extra spaces from here. So it was good. So let me just save this down, and let me just go back and refresh this. Okay, nothing is happening because I have made the color, which is the bike color over here, and after that you have to again concatenate with this model. So let me save this down and again run this. Then you'll see the bike color is black and the model is 300cc. So you can access the variable, that is the object attribute, with this way. So this will be wrap for this lecture. We learned about the objects in this lecture, how to create them, how to access them, and you can also make the functions inside this variable, which is the object. You can access that function. It can be anonymous function or it can be any function that is the method of this object, and you can access like this. You can just make some method inside here and you will just access the same way that we just did here, but instead you will just put a argument or basically any parenthesis and empty. If you just created the method with empty, just empty declaration, you will just pass empty parenthesis over here, and this is the way to just access the method of the objects if you create any of the method inside these objects. So this will be wrap for this lecture. See you in the next one.